All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by BetUS. That was atrocious. Final score, Atlanta 121, Knicks 116. We could talk about adjustment periods and patience and give it 20 games, and all that stuff still holds true. It certainly factored in large part tonight. We could talk about how this team has been on the road for 9 days, and they came out absolutely not anywhere close to the sort of effort that you need to come out to win an NBA game against a competent team. And this Atlanta team is competent. It's funny because they're missing Hunter and they're missing Bogdanovich, and you could argue that they, if maybe not got better, but because of the lineups now they're forced to play that have a little bit more two-way versatility, and certainly didn't seem to be missing anything offensively tonight, you could argue they actually got better, or at the very least did not get worse. But so that's a competent team. You don't come out with that level of effort and beat a team like that on their home floor. At least you shouldn't. And yet, we could talk about how guys are, and again, this falls under the adjustment period umbrella. Guys are still figuring out how to play with each other. Guys are still like Jalen Brunson. He looked as lost as we have seen him. I don't know if that was a personal, I'm going to figure it out against Dyson Daniels thing. I don't know if that's, I got to refigure out my role in this offense thing, but there was a stretch there in this game where he looked as bad or as, again, out of sorts as we've seen him look maybe ever in a Knick uniform. You give me all of that shit. At the end of the day, you're up 5 on that team with the talent that you have. Go win the game. Instead, they stopped playing basketball. Up 5, big play, big overturned. It was goaltending overturned for a block. Cat with what should have been the defining two-way sequence of the game. Hitting a 3 on one end and then getting that block on Trae Young on the other end, and you get the ball and you have the ball and you're under 2 minutes and 30 seconds by the time you take your next shot, and they just stopped playing. And again, I get it. They're tired, and they're tired because they've been on the road for a while. They're tired because all the starters are playing too many minutes because they're thin. And, I mean, you saw it tonight, like Tyler Kolek, he got run in the first half, and he actually got run in the second half, too, for a little while, and then completely, totally lost his bearings on a backdoor play. It's a rookie mistake. It happens. What happens? The absolute next opportunity Tibbs could take him out. Tibbs takes him out. I don't blame him. Can't get beat like that on a play in the fourth quarter. That's how you lose basketball games. But then what's the flip side? Flip side is OG Anunoby, 41 minutes. Karl-Anthony Towns, 38 minutes. Josh Hart, 38 minutes. Mikal Bridges, 39 minutes. Jalen Brunson, 37 minutes. It's adding up. And it showed tonight. You know? I mean, he's playing Deuce McBride as many minutes as you could reasonably play a 6-man who does not close halves and games for you. He played 28 minutes tonight. Jericho Sims, it's funny. I'll actually give Jericho Sims a little credit because after yet another underwhelming would be too kind. After another performance that left much to be desired, he was actually the one responsible for getting Jalen Brunson going. Because he was setting just brick wall screens, and Brunson finally figured out the Dyson Daniels thing. And it was the only really good positive stretch of the game that Jalen Brunson had. And then, of course, we saw in the beginning of or when Brunson went back in the fourth quarter, about 8 minutes, the offense was just stagnant again. And it is it's not that they can't do it. This team is the best three-point shooting team in the league. They made 22 of 47 from deep tonight. Second, tied for the second most threes in franchise history. And these are good looks. And honestly, there was probably another 5 at least three-point attempts that they left out there that I thought they were hesitant on. And they got more hesitant as the game went on because that's still not fully in this team's DNA. This team wants to work it inside. There were some passed up shots here in this game. OG Anunoby might have had the best game of any Knick. Him or Towns. Towns had a couple of not so great moments, but he was the player of the game. OG was outstanding defensively, and yet he has a wide open 3-point shot that he could have taken with 5:18 left and passed it up to Hart in the corner. And then on the very next possession, he had about 10 minutes to line up the laces on the ball, and he shot it too, and he missed it, of course. And I'll even go back to another play. Shout out to Autograph. I did a little halftime thing with them. They sponsor the signature moment of the game. Signature moment of the game doesn't always have to be a good moment. So we're going to do our Autograph signature moment of the game now. I hope Autograph doesn't mind me laying it on the Knicks with tonight's Autograph signature moment of the game. There was a play with midway through the third quarter in which Dyson Daniels, who had, to say Dyson Daniels was hounding Jalen Brunson all night is the understatement of the fucking year. He was in his jersey. He was in his pockets. He was underneath his shoelaces. That's as good a defensive performance by a guard on Jalen Brunson as you will ever see. Anyway, they're hiding Trey Young on Deuce McBride. And what happens on the possession? They get the switch. The thing they've been trying to get for 2.5 freaking quarters, where Dyson Daniels goes on Deuce McBride and Trey Young is left on Jalen Brunson. And what do? They go into a Deuce McBride post-up, which of course misses. If you want to know how absolutely out of sorts this offense is at times, between that and all the Jalen Brunson turnovers that we saw earlier in the game, one was more head-scratching than the next. It was, I think, only 3. It felt like 12. And then just the stagnant possessions in the fourth quarter. They just are not in any kind of a flow yet. And yet, they came into this freaking game as the 5th best offense in the league, and they come out of this game hitting 22 threes. And again, these are threes that are generated by the gravity of the players on the floor. It's not like, thank you to Autograph for the signature moment of the game. Again, go download the Autograph app to get more stuff from me and all your favorite Knicks content creators. You could find the link to that in my Twitter bio. Actually, I think all my bios. So shout out to Autograph. Anyway, back to the game. It's just incredible because the potential is right there. You see the potential. You get the actualization of the potential for stretches, for moments, for here and there. And then when you need it the most, and this is like, I have not been anywhere near upset. Like Boston game, okay, fine. Cleveland game, okay, fine. Even the Houston game, it's like, okay, fine. This game, you get those shots go down. You're in that position, win the game. And part of why they couldn't win the game, and look, this is all the Mitchell Robinson heads. Wait till Mitch comes back. Just wait till Mitch. He's going to save everything. They're all going to be out tonight. Because they couldn't get stopped. And again, I'm not putting that all on Towns. Certainly, it's not all on Towns. Towns is one player. And he actually made a few really nice defensive plays in this game, including what should have been the defensive play of the game. But he is not able to corral, he's not able to guard 2 men at once on the pick and roll. So when you have a guard like Trey Young, and the ball was in his hands every single one of those possessions, and Trey Young is able to beat the initial point of attack defender, and we're going to get to Mikal Bridges in a second. It's just too easy. And then when you throw in the fact that they were getting offensive rebounds as well, which again, it goes back to all those are the sorts of things on the defensive end late in the game where you say that the team last year they make enough plays on defense to win the game, and they would have. And that is also part of the adjustment. But again, you still have OG Anunoby out there. You still have Mikal Bridges out there. You still have Josh Hart out there. It should be enough. It should be enough. And tonight it wasn't. And like, look, at the end of the day, you got 82 games, losing 1 out of 82, even to a team that is probably going to win. I don't know if they're going to win 30 games this year. Although, the way they're going, they might surprise some people. But like, whatever. The Hawks are not a great team. Like, it's not the end of the world. But what's crazy is that, and I forget if did Boston lose tonight? I think Boston lost tonight. Well, whatever. Neither here nor there. Cleveland, I haven't checked. Well, we haven't done the out of town scoreboard yet. They were, they're about to beat the Pelicans, although that game's not a final yet. Like, it's almost like the rest of the East is playing for third place. Which, like, okay, fine. I didn't really care that much about seeding this year to begin with. Like, I said it before the season started. Just get in the top 4. Ideally, probably the 3 seed even, or would be better than the 4, assuming Boston's number 1. But maybe Boston's not going to be number 1. So who the hell knows? Maybe you don't even want, or maybe you want the 4 over the 3. But I'm getting ahead of myself because the way the Knicks are playing right now, it really is a question of, because if you could lose during this adjustment period to teams like the Hawks, I mean, you could kind of lose to anybody, and especially in the way that they lost. Now, hopefully, a little bit of home cooking, which they are going to get after they're home from Milwaukee, obviously. That'll be good to be home for that. Then you got a couple more on the road, Indiana and Philly, and then you're back home for a while against some teams you should clean up against. So at the end of the day, and then they have a couple manageable games after that. Like, can you get to 11-9 after 20 games? Like, at this point, I think you'd almost sign for that. But these losses are frustrating in the meantime because it's painful. You're right there. You're right there. The game's there. And I think there's going to be a lot of angry people after this one because again, last year's team, they win the game, but this was never going to be a linear development process. It was always going to be an adjustment period. It was always going to be ups and downs. Like, I know I'm obviously not the first person to say it. This is not the first time I've said it this year, but like 2010-11 Heat started off 9-8, and that team was as talented as any team you're ever going to find. It takes a while, and like you do things, you see things that you're like, man, don't tell me about adjustment periods when I'm seeing this nonsense. At the end of the day, though, it's like chemistry goes a long way. It really does. But it's no excuse tonight. Go in the game. Just like go in the game. Other things that I'm sure will come up. I mean, I don't. Oh, Bridges. I said I was going to talk about Bridges. That's one of those things where it's like, that's not a chemistry thing, man. Like that's why they got you, right? That's why they got you. You're the point of attack guy. OG's the off ball, like big wing guy. And again, I thought OG Anunoby was outstanding tonight defensively. Not perfect, but by and large, he was very good. And Mikal, it's like you can't have Trae Young cutting through you like butter there in the last couple minutes of the game. You got to give a little bit more. And I know I'm asking a lot from him. I'm asking a ton from him. And I'm asking a ton from him. And like, this is going to, like, look, if this thing takes a little bit longer to coalesce and he doesn't start doing a little bit, again, no one's asking him to go out there and score 30 points. But like the six first round pick thing, it's going to come up. It's already coming up, as it should. Like you were obtained because you were the best role player in the league, to the point where you're so good at the things that you are good at that in a way you are kind of a star. That makes you a star. Well, you're only a star in that way, in that role, if you are elite at all of those things that you are asked to do. And Bridges is a little bit short of elite right now. And towards the end of the game, I thought he was maybe more than a little bit short of elite. So that was frustrating. I talked about Jericho Sims. I mean, I'm happy he was able to contribute. I still, it's hard to watch him sometimes and feel like you're watching a guy who should be getting rotation minutes. So that's what it was. And like, look, I know I ragged on Kolek for getting beat back door. He also, when he first came into the game, he was responsible for an early turnover that, and then he fouled the 3-point shooter. Like, these are just rookie things. But then he did some nice things too. He's obviously making shots. I just like, at the end of the day, the answer, I'll end with this and then we'll move on to betting and sweating. The answer is both completely on this roster and the answer is not on this roster at all. And here's what I mean by that. The stuff that is going on with the starting five, and if you want to throw Deuce in there too, but just like with the core components, right? With the core guys, with Jalen Brunson, trying to figure out how to lead this offense and get the most out of this offense, and everybody else around him figuring out the balance between too selfish and not selfish enough. You know, the only guy for me that feels like he has the right balance is Cat. Honestly, I feel like Cat's just out there balling, and he looks really good. And it's like say this about the Towns trade: every single thing that you could have possibly wanted or reasonably expected from Karl-Anthony Towns thus far, you've gotten. I don't think he's been terrible on defense. He's been what you expected on defense. He's been incredible on the boards. I thought he had a play. Where was it here? The back to, yeah. So offensive rebound off of Jalen Brunson miss, made it 103-101, gave him a 2-point lead. Tough offensive rebound there. And then right after that, and then you want to talk about a symbolic sequence? On the very next possession, Brunson, it was a Cat and Brunson pick and roll, which is exactly what it should be. Empty side pick and empty side pick and roll. Like everybody else was on the weak side. And Brunson gets to the paint and he drags Capella with him. I'm pretty sure it was Capella. Maybe it was a Congo, whoever it was. Drags the center with him. Karl-Anthony Towns is standing there like a high school boy who's been stranded on what he thought was his first date. Look around, there's nobody near him. And Brunson takes, I think actually Brunson tried, either he took a shot or he tried to like kick it to the corners. Nothing came of the possession. And he had Towns right there. It's just, there is a lot of uncertainty right now between how to make this thing add up to the sum of its parts. And right now it's not. And that's the frustrating part. So hopefully you live and you learn and you get a little bit better with each passing day. It's going to be hysterical when they're going to play on Friday and Giannis returns from an injury absence, and then they're going to play on Tuesday when Embiid returns from the suspension. With Indiana in between. Like, look, things could get really dicey here. They could Bucks, Pacers, Sixers. I shouldn't need to say anything else. Like they could fuck around and like this could be. I mean, I obviously hope not, but like this could be 3-7. I don't think it will be. I think they'll figure out a way to get a win, hopefully 2. Show me where I could sign for 5-5 right now after the first 10. But it's like, again, I'm not shocked by this. I'm annoyed by it. I'm frustrated by it. I'm not shocked by that. And this. And if you don't believe me, go back and read my preseason predictions that I made before training camp even opened. I predicted there would be an early season crisis point with this team. And I don't know. We're not there yet. And I don't think it's like a legitimate crisis point, but like people are going to make it out to be a crisis point because it's so frustrating. So that's it. Let's go to our have a couple or a word about our friends at BetUS. So if you're looking for a new book this basketball season, BetUS, of course, is the answer. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, which you could avail yourself to with the promo code YouTube150. Get 150% bonus on your first deposit, plus 125% on your next 2, up to $2,000. They have the best withdrawal process. They have the best personalized service, 24/7, 365 days of the year. Live wagering, best betting variety, 10% on your net losses. Of course, you could get your own personal account manager, and you could just use the link below the description of this episode. So we're going to go through Andrew Claudio's betting and sweating picks tonight. Let's see how our friend did. as I attempt to zoom in on the screen because it's very small. So we have away team total points over 116.5. Of course, they fall short by a half a freaking point. My goodness gracious. Second bet, OG Anunoby will have at least 2 3-point field goals made. He got 3, so good job on that one, Andrew. And then last but not least, Karl-Anthony Towns will have at least 21 points. He made he cleared that one very easily. 34 points on 23 shots. Again, Towns has not been the problem. Has not been the problem. So that is your betting and sweating picks for tonight. One more time, promo code YouTube150 for 150% bonus on your first deposit, plus 125% on your next two up to 2,000. Remember, gambling involves risks. Please only gamble with the funds that you can afford to lose. All forms of betting carry financial risk, and it is down to the individual to make bets with or without the assistance of the information provided. Okay. I am curious where people are going to be at tonight. I have a feeling it's not going to be great. We start off with Busy. Hello, Busy. How are you, sir? I remember the days of basketball when, if the big and the guard got the switch, it was mandatory to dump it down low to the big first to see if they could take advantage. Now it's Brunson attacking the big. And it's not just any big that you can dump it down to, Busy. It's Karl-Anthony Towns. And, like, I agree with you. I get here's the thing. I'm going to try to be glass half full here, devil's advocate, whatever you want to say, and give you the Brunson's trying to get himself going. I'm going to give you the, Brunson against the big is still a mismatch. Like, the times when this offense has looked best this year have been when it has gone through Karl-Anthony Towns. And that is an undisputable fact. And I wonder, and the times when Brunson has been at his best during the few moments that he has been at the level we expect. I mean, he's not, forget All-NBA, MVP. He's not even playing at an all-star level right now. It's just, he's not. And he's not, honestly, with some of the starts that guys are having around the league, it's not really close. But the times when he has been good is when you could tell he's not thinking. He's just acting. He's not worried about, who do I get involved? It's like, I'm going to hunt. I'm going to go. And it's quick. It's not a lot. It doesn't take a lot to get into it. So I think he's just staying on the ball for too long. And yeah, there's probably some entry passes that he could be making that he's not making. I know you have another one here, Busy. So we'll get that up now as well. It feels nasty being so critical of JB because he's so good, but I feel like he's trapped in the mind frame that he is with last year's team. The offense flowed great in the first half when they drove and passed more. I mean, I don't think the offense... Actually, no. Yeah, the offense did flow great in the early going. They just missed all their threes. Yeah, right from the outset. I mean, those were good looks. Those 3-pointers that they were getting. Those were good looks, by and large. And they ended up with, whatever. They ended up with 61 points in the first half, so it's fine. Yeah, it did flow better. And it was, again, less thinking, just more like taking what they give you. I'm not worried about Brunson. I don't think you're worried about Brunson. And I hope the majority of fans aren't worried about Brunson. It's okay to be critical of him because I'm sure he's critical of himself. No one's sitting here saying trade him. No one's sitting here saying, bench him. No one's sitting here saying, oh, he's the only reason they're... No, it's just we got used to a certain level of play from him, and now he needs to adjust to something different, and that's hard. And I don't blame. We can hold him accountable without saying this is no one's saying it's unreasonable. I think that's maybe the word I'm trying to get to. It's frustrating. It's annoying. It's not unreasonable. What we're seeing. I don't think so. At least maybe you could differ about that. I guess, but he'll figure it out. He figures everything else out. He'll figure this out. Thanks, Busy. Colin Reardon. The team's lack of ability to dribble is killing them. I mean, look, I get they had a bunch too many turnovers against the Rockets the other night. Tonight they had 16 turnovers, way too much. Like, you want to talk about tenets of a Thibodeau team? You can talk about defense, talk about rebounding. You could talk about rim pressure. You could talk about all those sorts of things. I would argue that the thing that Tom Thibodeau probably cares about the most is don't turn the ball over. Because when you turn the ball over, it is the only thing that is a double whammy. Give up an offensive rebound, that's frustrating, but you've given them one more possession. I guess you could say you've deprived yourself of a possession, so that's kind of a double whammy too. So maybe defensive rebounding and turnovers are like tied at the top. But turnovers are like you don't get a shot and you give the other team an extra shot. And oftentimes the opportunity you're going to give the other team is a good one. And the Hawks got plenty of good opportunities off Knicks turnovers tonight. They scored. Actually, I'm surprised it wasn't more. They scored 15 points off of 16 turnovers. Funny enough, the Knicks only turned the Hawks over 8 times and scored 16 points on those turnovers. So good job there. But this is all to say, I don't think it has anything to do with their ability to dribble. I think this goes right back to the theme of the season, which is this team is out of sorts. And guys are just not playing as they would if they were in a situation that they were more familiar with and more comfortable with. Like that Josh Hart turnover Josh Hart could dribble just fine. That turnover was ridiculous. Jalen Brunson has had I don't know how many ridiculous turnovers he had tonight. It's like that's the whole concept of this team is you have 5 guys who can put the ball on the floor, if they need to. But when they're not playing as a cohesive unit, oftentimes it comes off as in this way. And give the Hawks credit. I thought that the Hawks defended their asses off tonight. Thanks, Kyle. Matt G, I don't know what the hell this pick and roll defense is, but allowing a guard to get 7 feet from the hoop with no resistance isn't going to work. I mean, these are floater range shots. Not all of them. Some of them were floater range shots. They're all floater range, but some of them were closer than others. I mean, let's give credit where credit is due. Trae Young is quite literally the best player in the league at this particular skill. Getting into the lane and the reason he is the best player in the league at it, and he has been for some time, is because Clint Capella. It's funny, we were talking about on the playback the other night. Rudy Gobert, Steven Adams are like 1, 2 in some order for the best screen setters in the league. I think Clint Capella has a pretty good argument for third. Clint Capella is a freaking, I mean, that dude he's legit. So that's the only reason why I don't want to go. I probably shouldn't go too hard against Bridges because no one gets around Capella. Capella's a freaking monster. And then he's a great dive man too, which is what makes him a guy that for as vanilla, PB&J as he appears to be, there's a reason that dude has been getting paid, $25 million a year or low 20s a year, and why he's just really valuable. So between him and Trae Young, this is what they do. This is their offense. And then the alternative, what's the alternative? The alternative is you send the help. And if you send the help, that's how you get Zachary Reese-Shea going however the hell many, whatever he went from 3 tonight. That's why a team using this formula, Trae Young plus Clint Capella plus shooters, went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, they've been a disaster the last few years because they completely bungled that formula and went out and got another guy who wants the ball and doesn't want to stand around a 3-point arc and shoot threes. But now they've rejiggered it again, and now it sure looks like it's working well now. So I want to at least be fair. All that said, it's this is not Towns is not deterring Trae Young on these. the better centers, better defensive centers than him have had major problems with this pick and roll attack. So, but like, look, we're sitting here talking about Trae Young pick and roll, right? Friday, we'll be talking about Milwaukee's attack with Dame and Giannis. And then Sunday, we'll be talking about Indiana. And Tuesday, we'll be talking about Philly and all that they could throw. Like, turn on the TV, watch any NBA game. And the odds are you're going to see an offensive attack where you're like, wow, that's really devastating when it gets going. Well, that's the league right now. So you got to figure this out. You got to figure out, what teams are going to try to do, and you got to figure out how to do something better against it. And again, it's not like you don't have the personnel to do some stuff, but it's part of the growth process. Robert Cross, losses on Brunson. Need to play smarter, find a better balance with Cat. It's not complicated. Well, I mean, I don't mean to be harsh, Robert. If it wasn't complicated, they'd be doing it already. I would actually argue that it is the most complicated thing there is in basketball. I know he is not so popular anymore, especially around these parts, but like the secret of basketball section. It's funny. I was talking about Simmons. You could say it about the other guy in this section of the book too, Isaiah Thomas. Not popular around here either. But the section about, figuring out the secret of basketball and how some guys go their entire careers, they never figure it out. And some teams just never figure it out. Because it's not like flipping a switch. It's not like, oh, okay, well, obviously I should do it. Like, it's really hard. It's really hard, and it takes time. What was frustrating tonight is again, after that, at the 2.5 minute mark, it's like you abandoned everything that had been working well. You did enough. You overcame the bumps in the road to get to that point with 2.5 minutes left. And then it's like, poof, went up in smoke. That was what was frustrating about tonight. I wouldn't have killed them for the tough moments that they had in the first 45.5 minutes. That I could understand a little bit. But the end was just incredibly frustrating. Thank you, Robert. Armand Bernadette, not a good team right now. They're getting out hustled, and the defense and rebounding is not nearly as good as last year. Jalen is also playing like Julius. That's a comp. Yeah, I mean, they look like the more tired team today. Again, they've been on the road for 9 days. Last game of a long road trip. I want to honor that. It's real. Which is, again, what makes this all the more frustrating. You could have stolen one in that situation, and you didn't. I mean, the rebounding, they've given up some not great offensive rebounds. I totally agree. I'm not alarmed by the rebounding. Like, they were out rebounded by 7 tonight. The Hawks got 16 offensive rebounds. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Yeah, that has to be better. I stand corrected. That hurt. That hurt. And a lot of them were late. So you're combining the tired with the rebounding issues and they're exacerbated. Do I think they're not a good team right now? No, I can't say that, which is, honestly, it makes it worse. This is a good team. Like, even with the issues, this is a good team. And they're just getting beat. So it's frustrating because they're just not playing up to their potential. Thank you, Armand. Hush Zoo, since Brunson touched down in New York, this is probably the most disappointed I've been with him. Something is off, whether it's mental or a lingering injury. I don't think it's an injury at all. I mean, what the hell do I know? But we have no reason to believe it's an injury. I think this is adjustment period stuff, Hush. And I mean, for me, this is the only time I've been disappointed with him. I've never been disappointed with Jalen Brunson. And I can't even sit here and say right now that I am disappointed in Jalen Brunson, because that would imply that, like, he could be doing more and he's not, or he's not working hard enough, or he's being selfish. Like, I don't believe any of those things are true. I believe he is is having trouble figuring out how can I get to the place where I can help my team the most, and that has been difficult. So I can't even say I'm disappointed in him. It's just frustrating to have to. It's just frustrating. That's all. It's just frustrating. Thanks, Hush. I'll before I go to the next super chat, as from Tibbs. We have to close better. We have to defend, and we got to rebound, and we got to keep our turnovers down. If we do those three things, we're in position to win. Well, what did I say? Rebound, turnovers, defend. There you go. Didn't do any of those things. Josso focused. Is Towns still unsure what to do in drop? I didn't. I honestly, again, these are sometimes like I get caught off guard with like where the attention is going to go. Have you guys like not watched the Hawks? I'm serious. This is what the Hawks do. Whatever. Thanks, Joe. Kevin, definitely early season crisis point. I mean, everybody's upset. I get that. It's not a crisis to me, but I agree that's the feeling at the moment. That being said, somewhat understandable on the fourth game of the road trip. Would have liked to see Deuce over Hart there. Hart makes winning plays. Did make winning plays tonight. He's made him a hell of a lot in the past. I know Deuce made some shots tonight, which is always important. I don't have an issue with it. Thanks, Kev. Will Oliver, brutal week all around, but let's stay patient. Yeah, you can say that again. On both counts. On both counts. Thank you, Will. Jihad Brown. What's going on, Jihad? Last 2 minutes coming out of the timeout, we look terrible. Yep. The Hart Chuck 3. I thank you so much for bringing that up. I meant to highlight that, and I know I just said Hart makes winning plays. Here's the thing. That possession, I don't think was on him. He ended up with the ball with 8, 7, 6, something like that, seconds left on the shot clock, and nobody around him was moving. And he's looking around like, all right, well, I guess I'm taking this shot. It was an atrocious possession all around. Obviously, he missed the shot, and that was frustrating. But that possession right there. As soon as it happened, I was like, I would be almost surprised if that didn't come back to bite them in the ass. Because it was such a poor possession. After you have all the momentum in the goddamn game. Poor decisions from the offensive playmaking perspective. We need to utilize Bridges for us offensive creation down the stretch. So the Bridges thing was interesting because how many times was Trae Young matched up on him tonight? And you saw Hart tried to get it to him in the post. They drew a foul. There were a couple other times. Oh, actually, when did it was Deuce. I'm pretty sure it was Deuce, unless I'm mistaken. If I'm mistaken, somebody call me out. Where they had Deuce matched up on Trae, or Trae was matched up on Deuce, and they got it to Deuce, not in the post. It was by the baseline, and Deuce was trying to work Trae, and Trae turned him over. Trae stole the ball. It was a big play at the moment. And Mikal had it a couple times against Deuce, and I didn't feel like he either tried to do much or maybe they could have gotten the ball more. But at the same time, what do we keep talking about? What do we keep hearing? Got to move the ball. You can't go just mismatch hunting. You gotta have offensive flow. That's why I push back on Robert's comment like I did. To act like this stuff is simple is. I just don't agree with it. It's really hard to find the balance. And they are a team that is trying to find it right now. And there are times where it doesn't look like they have a flashlight. Thanks, Jihad. Zamps, what's going on, Zamps? That's now back-to-back games where they've completely disappeared in the final 5 minutes of winnable games. Something to monitor as they continue to adjust. Yeah, I mean, the fact that they couldn't get one of these. The fact that they couldn't get one of these games, that's bad. That's bad. I do feel like the ability to close effectively. Like, they have closers on their, like, obviously they have closers on their team. And, like, if there's a guy who would have been like, oh, he's not a closer, you would probably say about Towns. And I don't think Towns is like, I say this. Maybe I'm like predisposed to liking him because I was in favor of the trade, but I can't think of a key play like in a fourth quarter yet where Towns did like a really bad Towns thing, like the sort of stuff that he's kind of become known for over the years. Maybe in the Cleveland game there was one something, but yeah, he got hurt on pick and roll defense tonight. But that's, again, give credit to Trae Young, give credit to the Hawks. They've been doing this like clockwork for 5 years. And then maybe give a little bit of a knock to some of the other defenders on the floor. Thanks, Samps. Hajdu, our defense is atrocious. Atrocious. Open three after open three. Feels like there's so much confusion on the court. Cat's paint defense was not great. Growing pains. It's when you need to help. You know, that's where open threes come from, when you help. And they're helping, and it's open threes. It's really all there is to it. So how do you prevent it? You switch, or you don't send help. And this team doesn't want to switch, and maybe that's where they get to. Maybe that is ultimately the place where they arrive at, where they are like, all right, we got to switch more. You know? And yet, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm watching an atrocious defense. I know they were atrocious in the last 3 minutes of the game. You can't get much more atrocious than the last 3 minutes of the game. They were terrible. I don't think this defense has been atrocious. I think this defense has shown enough good stuff where, like, they are, let's call them inconsistent. How about that? Let's be kind. Call them inconsistent. Thank you, Hush. True statement. What's going on, True? Sometimes it seems as if our offense is filled with a bunch of scorers and no floor general to manage everything. Well, that's a direct shot at Brunson. And, like, is it an unfair one? You know, it's, you could make an argument that this particular group of guys, would they be better with, you know, a guy who was a little bit more like a Trae Young, right? Who can make all the passes? I would say no, and I would say no pretty vociferously, because I have seen what Jalen Brunson is capable of doing, and I do think he is one of the elite one-on-one players in the league. But it is still, but for him to figure out how to amplify everybody else is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a big challenge. And I feel like I talked about this before the year. I forget what show I first said it on, or maybe I said it a couple times. Thought this season would be the biggest challenge of Brunson's career, which is ironic because he's never had this much talent around him. But I believed it, and I still believe it. Thank you, True Statement. Kevin O. Peterson. They shot well tonight, but this offense looks more static than ever. Are we missing Johnny Bryant? I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry. No, we're not missing Johnny Bryant. Was not responsible for the offense. I shouldn't laugh. That's not nice. I shouldn't laugh. I'm sure Johnny Bryant's a very valuable assistant coach, but no, this has nothing to do with Johnny Bryant. Also, Bridges cannot have 2 rebounds in 40 minutes. That's awful. Yeah, he can be better on the boards. I think that was a weakness that people identified, that he's not a great rebounding wing for sure. I think people focused on him and Anunoby in particular as guys who would need to be better on the boards. I think OG is I don't know what OG's rebounding numbers are, but like, I feel like when he's down there and he's in a position to get a rebound, I think he does a pretty good job of it. Cat's been excellent. Hart's been Hart. So yeah, Brunson could be a little bit better. Or sorry, Bridges could be a little bit better. Thanks, Kevin. Josso focused, already starting the bit. Last one. Giving up a 13-1 run to a sub-500 team when your starting lineup is on the court and you had a 2-possession lead, hard to defend that one. It's impossible. So I was more fired up starting this postgame than any. I was more fired up on this start this postgame than I was after like the last 3 playoff losses last year, probably the last 4. You know, this one pisses you off. Absolutely. If you're not pissed off with this one, like, you know, DJ with a good tweet here is another thing. Jalen Brunson has missed Isaiah Hartenstein's screening. Those screens routinely got Jalen Brunson a great advantage at the first level, made everything else downhill a bit easier. Tough to replace. iHeart is an elite screener. And then he adds, this is an area that Cat needs to improve on. Yeah, Cat's not a bad screener. But again, I think, could that fall under the chemistry thing? Like, Cat has to know how to screen for Brunson and what Brunson likes and stuff. But Cat was not dislodging Dyson Daniels at all. He was not. Now, Dyson Daniels might make an all-defense team this year, the way he's going. So, you know, but, like, it's a great point. Hartenstein and Brunson, they developed incredible chemistry, which is another reason why I know I'm screaming at clouds here, but, like, this is another thing why I'm like, the notion that Mitch is going to come in here and change things for the better. Mitch is not going to improve your screening on offense. You know, he's just not. You know, he's not Isaiah Hartenstein. There's a reason that Mitchell Robinson gets paid what he gets paid, and Isaiah Hartenstein gets paid what he gets paid. So, thanks, Joe. Hush Zoo, another one. Brunson, again, outside of a nice little stretch in the third, extremely indecisive, looked very lost at times on what to do. His assist numbers are bad. I know somebody had said I think at halftime he had no assists, right? What did he finish the game with? 4. Yeah. 4 assists and 3 turnovers. That is not, I mean, you want to talk about a giant blinking, flashing light? Jalen Brunson, 4-3 assist to turnover ratio. That says he might only have 6, 7, 8 assists in a game, but he's not going to have more than 1 or 2 turnovers. 4-3, that's not going to cut it. Robert Cross didn't like the sub of Deuce for Bridges late. Made no sense. One guy played well, the other guy played poor. Well, look, we've had this conversation for years, Robert. This is about not being a prisoner of the moment. Mikal Bridges is he's part of your core. You know, I'm not saying Deuce isn't. I'm not saying Deuce isn't good. I'm not saying Deuce didn't have a good game. I'm not saying Deuce couldn't have done well in that spot. All the things. Winning a championship is about developing good habits. I understand it's also about selflessness too. And like, hey, if I don't have it tonight, I might not be on the floor. I personally was happy when he came in because I felt that he gave the Knicks a better chance of slowing down the pick and roll attack with Trae Young, with his length and what he's able to do defensively, fighting through screens and all of that. Didn't work out. Didn't happen. But, like, the notion that they shouldn't have brought... I mean, come on, dude. It's Mikal Bridges. Like, he needs to play better, but it's Mikal Bridges. Thank you, Robert. Jesse M. Dyson played JB well. I was impressed. JB was frustrated. Dyson, man, if that dude's going to hit threes, if he can make open catch and shoot threes, holy Christ, does that make him a valuable player? And he could move the ball on, like, he could obviously he could dribble. He's point guard by trade. Like, that is, to say that they may have gotten, and I know a lot of people, like, there are people watching this very post game who were screaming and yelling for DeJounte Murray. I think DeJounte Murray is just good enough to lose with. That's the sort of player he is. Dyson Daniels, as a role player, man, if he could hit shots, whew, boy. That defense is as real as it comes. Thanks, Jesse. Mr. Knicks 101, starting to hate Brunson. I hope that's a joke. I'm not even going to respond to that. I'm going to pretend that's a joke. Mr. Knicks 101. Chris Carter, need more from the captain. Yeah. Yeah. Needing more versus I'm starting to hate. Come on, guys. We have standards that we uphold here on Knicks Film School. Thanks, Chris. Jack McMack, worried about our rim protection. Maybe Tibbs had a point all these years. Brunson needs to be better. Mikal needs to be more involved on offense. Let's go Knicks. Yeah, but how? Or the Mikal point specifically, how? How are we getting Mikal Bridges more involved on offense? Because Mikal Bridges is like, he's a really good cutter. So that's a way to get him more involved. More cutting, for sure. I haven't seen a whole lot of that yet. Just more movement, I think could work. Like that's what made DiVincenzo so valuable, right? Is his movement on the offense and how he could hit threes off movement. Mikal was never going to be DiVincenzo when it came to movement threes, but you figure you're making up for it on the defensive end. Hasn't quite translated yet. So that's an issue. As far as worrying about our rim protection, I mean, they're a different team now. The rim protection has to come not from the center. The rim protection has to come from other areas. And I don't really mean that literally. I mean, like, you have to prevent penetration through your perimeter defense. And because once teams get in the paint, they're going to have a decent success rate. That's just a fact. And like maybe you start putting OG down there and putting OG more on fives. Like we've seen Tibbs do it at times. And like, should he have done it a little bit more tonight? Capella's he's a big freaking dude who jumps really high. So I don't know if tonight was the night for it. Reasonable minds could differ on that one, but you gotta figure it out. Cause like Cat is just, he's not going to be that level of rim protector, he's just not. Haitian Ferg, what's going on, Haitian? JB needs to use the pick instead of going away from it. I think he was just he was like searching. That's all that was. I think he was searching. I agree with you. But he was searching. And it was interesting when Sims came in, then he started using the pick because the screens were better. So something to monitor. Makes defense easier for the opponent and creates more stagnant offense in late game situations. Yeah, it was just they didn't generate enough good stuff. And yet I also feel like their uncertainty and their hesitation late in that game hurt them. And a lack of movement. Definitely a lack of movement. And that's the thing is when Brunson is doing his thing, guys often stand around. At least right now they are, because they don't know what to do any better. So got to figure it out. That's all there is to it. Thanks, Haitian. Hush. Lifetime pass or not, Brunson has clear issues right now. Yeah, no one's disagreeing with that. It's just, let's be fair. The guy quite literally saved the franchise as far as I'm concerned. So, thank you, Hush. Dan Hidalgo, we lost creation juice. And you can never have enough of it, too. Need to find reliable ways to generate offense. This team has too much talent not to figure it out. I hope Bridges can create. I think it's just going to come from the whole. I think the whole. Here's the thing. You don't have the second creator, but you have a bunch of really talented offensive players who could do different things. So if you can get to the point where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, you will be fine. You will be fine. And like, as I say this, I don't know if NBA.com is like updated. And I know people get sick when I quote like stats and whatnot. Right now, you can't write this stuff. Right now, your 3 and 4 Knicks have the 4th ranked offense in the league. Their offensive ranking actually went up after tonight's game. 118.5. They're trailing the Warriors, the Cavs, and the Celtics, who are 7-2, 8-0, and 7-1. And their defensive rating, if you're wondering, Knicks, it's 115.2, which currently ranks 20th. That sounds about right. And I should be, well, there's like no one near them. The Nets are in 19th, 114.2. Knicks are 115.2. Sixers 115.9. So they're like kind of in their own little zone there. But like, yeah. I like when it works, or when it has worked. I'm like, yes, this is the vision. This is it. This is how you win a championship. This is the sort of offense that could win a title when it is working. And it worked some tonight, it absolutely worked some tonight. And it's been working. Clearly it's been working to some degree because their offensive rating is what it is. Now, they're also hitting more threes than anybody in the league, which has to do with, that's part of why their offensive rating is what it is. But these are good threes. These are good threes. Are you going to continue to hit whatever, 48% of them? Obviously not. So that's the balance. Like, they're ranked third because of the threes, but they look like a disjointed mess sometimes. So as the threes come down, the disjointed mess part needs to go away. And hopefully after those two things even out, you could still be a top 3 offense. At that point, then it just comes down to getting your defense to top 12, 13, 11, I don't know, somewhere around there. God forbid, top 10 eventually. And there you go. That's your contending, that's your profile of a championship contender. Right there. Thank you, Dan. Kevin with another one. I really don't agree with people saying the offensive process is bad. Even down the stretch, they got good looks, couldn't connect, but the defense needs shoring up. I will push back against you on. I thought the Hart possession where Hart took the 3, that was bad possession. It was stagnant. They didn't move the ball enough. Nothing came. They tried some nonsense. I frankly don't remember what they tried. It was not good. It was not a good possession. The next possession, they got an OG 3 that was not a corner 3, but it was kind of like it was not a top of the arc 3 either. The way he's been shooting, it wasn't an open look. It wasn't like a wide open look, but I thought, like, all right, I was like, I didn't love it at the time. It was, it wasn't great. Then you had the Brunson drive where he got to the line, which I thought was a good possession. That's fine. Like, he drew the foul. Like, good job. And then he misses one of the free throws, of course. And then you got the cat corner 3, which I thought, I would have to go watch it again. I thought that was a good shot. So I'll give you that. Maybe it was just really like 1.5 possessions there, but that's enough. And in a game like that, like you kind of have to go shot for shot. So they didn't do it. You're on a 500 now. Jibo, what's going on, Jibo? First truly upsetting loss of the season. Completely agree. Absolutely awful execution of offense and defense to close the game. Yes. Need Precious or Mitch with Cat in the starting lineup. Could not disagree more. Need more size and defense. Atlanta took 100 shots to our 84. Yeah, that's because the guys that are in the lineup didn't rebound well enough. That is knowing where to be. That is boxing out. Like, the Knicks employ a starting lineup where, like, Josh Hart is at the 4 or at the 3. Sorry, Mikal Bridges is at the 2. Like, and OG is a big boy at the 4, and Cat is obviously at the 5. Like, you should be able to rebound. You have the personnel to rebound. To take what is working on offense and completely throw it in the shitter by adding Mitchell Robinson and go backwards. I did not think that this would be the thing that would like be the craw on my side this year, where people are suggesting start Mitch. I would rather start Pacome Dadier. I'm being facetious, obviously, but like that is so going backwards. It is so going backwards, relying on, our offense is going to be stuck in mud against good teams because we have a player on the floor that they could just ignore completely, as good teams do with Mitchell Robinson. But it's okay because he'll gobble up offensive rebounds and we'll get points that way. That is going backwards. You do not trade for Karl-Anthony Towns to do that. Or if you do trade for Karl-Anthony Towns to do that, maybe you start it like that, but you sure as hell should not close games like that or count on that as your lineup that you are going to go to in big moments and big playoff games. And if that is not what this pursuit is about, then what the hell are we doing here? You know? You are in this to win a title. And Mitchell Robinson can contribute to that. He could be a helpful player. In certain series, the guy could play probably 15, 20 minutes a night. The notion that, like, that's your answer? I'm sorry. I just figure this out. Figure that we're 7 games into this. 7 games. And we're talking about going back to, come on. I cannot tell you how disappointed I would be if they would. I would be as disappointed in them as I have been in anything this regime has done or this coaching staff has done if they do that. Precious gives you a little bit more skill on offense, but like you know, teams still aren't guarding him. Like he could do some stuff. That's like mildly interesting to me, but if anything, I could see like, okay, you start him and then Josh Hart comes in, you know, at the 6-minute mark and maybe you see Precious only backing up Towns from there, you know. He's like a token starter. I would be more okay with that because at least that you're not compromising your skill level on offense to a significant degree. And to be very clear, if this team still had Isaiah Hartenstein, this would be a very different conversation. I still think I would be in favor of Towns at the 5 during at least some significant minutes. But Isaiah Hartenstein is such a gifted offensive player, even without spacing the floor to the 3-point line, that he makes up for the lack of shooting in so many ways. And he is not a good defensive center. He's a great defensive center. To say nothing of all the other stuff that he, like rebounding and all that stuff. That would be a different conversation. Comparing Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson offensively is it's not a comparison. And I saw Mitchell Robinson had yet another ridiculous tweet. I just like I don't care. All right. Thanks, Chibo. Freeway Hustle 21. What's going on, Freeway Hustle? Teams have picked up on JB running into the paint, picking up the dribble, and looking for the bailout pass. He's doing that too consistently, needs to stop forcing and look to dish. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. 100%. Teams are picking up on it. I agree. I think the challenge, tonight and against Houston, those two teams are unique in that they had guys that were really well suited, not only to guard Jalen Brunson well, but to offer real, genuine rear contest ability once he got past them. Because there were, and I noticed it on a play. It was in the fourth quarter. I should have written it down. Brunson, it was a good enough screen, and Brunson got Daniels on his hip. And normally he would go up with that. Because at the very least, you're drawing a foul. But Dyson, because he's long, he can actually just block that shot. Same thing with Thompson on the Rockets. There's not a lot of teams that have those levels of defenders. All that being said, I completely agree with you, Freeway Hustler. I think it's a great point. How does he figure it out? Continue throwing different looks and surprising teams, because the element of surprise has always been big for him. And yeah, that's really it. Be a more willing distributor too. Trust the flow of the offense. Don't feel like you have to generate everything. This offenses look best when the ball's pinging around. And by the way, you can create, like, the whole thing of like creating an advantage. When you create the advantage, the ball could still move a lot on that possession. And that's what I feel like isn't happening enough. It feels like it's an either or thing. And the more the ball moves with this offense, the better shots they get. Thanks, Free Hustler. CC Kirby, what's going on, CC? With a couple of minutes to go in the fourth, there was a pick set by Cat, which left him wide open for three, and Brunson ignored him and drove into nothing. Felt like that was where the game turned. I think that's the one I was referring to. For some reason, when I referred to it earlier in the post game, I thought it was earlier in the fourth, and that's my bad. It must have been late. Kevin is telling me that Benji tweeted this. I don't know if I'm assuming you mean he tweeted like this play or something in reference to this. So I'm looking now. I'll find it. Also, I just saw Benji's grades. Yeah, it says that has to be a Cat 3. Yep. Brunson searching. Yep. Brunson C+ from Benji tonight, which I think it's fair. But like, that's the frustrating part tonight. And I don't disagree with Benji here. Gave Brunson a C+, Bridges a C. Everybody else, he gave at least a B-, which is like, all right, not a great game, but not a terrible game. Towns got to be like, they have enough guys playing well that they should be able to win these games. But when the head of the snake isn't doing it, it's tough. Thanks, CC. Richard Bailey, John, why does everything suck? Man. Wish I had the answer to that question. Richard, I really wish I had the answer to that question. My answer is that I stopped trying to figure out why years ago. And just trying to make the best of it. That's all. Thanks, Richard. Delsky gave up all those picks for a guy who the Hawks put Trey to defend. Yeah. I'm a huge believer in Mikal, but we got to take advantage of that matchup. Yeah, and that's on Mikal Bridges, and that's on the Knicks. It's on everybody. I'm not saying like that should have been their only offense throughout the game. It shouldn't have been. But to not take more advantage of it, you got it. Again, it's all part of the search. It's all part of the balance you're trying to find. Completely agree. Thanks, Delsky. Charlie Boy third. What's going on, Charlie Boy? Hey, John. I know it's early, but this game pissed me off. I think this game pissed everybody off. Clearly. It feels wrong to say anything bad about Jalen Brunson. I mean, yes and no. Yeah, it does. But anyway, but he has to be better. He killed them early and more bad decisions late. Got to win on Friday. Look, that I will say again, there's no such thing as a must-win game this early in the season. This team is talented enough that if they do really get off to a poor record after the first 10 games, you could like, they're more than capable of going on long winning streaks later in the year. It's just, I think more than anything, the thing that I'm not worried about this, but the thing that is the most concerning for me is if they do get off to a rough start, I do think it is an early big test for the culture. And like, when guys are winning, guys are willing to sacrifice, guys are all rowing in the same direction, the whole thing. If you're not winning, it's like during the few times during the Thibodeau era where they have not been winning, it has not been pretty, And like baseball's over. People are going to stop paying attention to the football teams pretty soon. It's going to be a lot of attention. Election's over. People are going to be paying a lot of attention to this team very soon. So if it gets bad, that's going to be a test. Thank you, Charlie Boy Third. Travis Edward, just angry, but this team is ass right now. I don't. That's not what I'm seeing. I get your anger. You're saying you're angry. I get it. I don't think we're looking at a team that's terrible. Again, they have the third-ranked offense in basketball or fourth-ranked offense in basketball, whatever they are. Like, they're doing good stuff. Jesse M. Swiss cheese D is concerning. Can't give up 80-3 Hawks. Yeah, I mean, look, give Risacher credit. He had the night of his young career. He might not have a better game than that all season, but he was also the number one pick in the draft. So, but yeah, I mean, like Trae Young and Jalen Johnson, like those guys are studs. You get the night from Risacher, okay. You get Capella doing what Capella does when Trae's going, okay. And that's, and then the Wallace kid off the bench, he gave you a little bit. What did Wallace finish with? Wallace finished with 9 or 7, 3 of 7 from the floor. Matthews hit a couple threes. He finished with 9, got to the line on that, got fouled there. Okongwu didn't even need to do anything. Roddy didn't even need to do anything. Dyson, how about this? Dyson Daniels took 16 field goals attempts and made 3. I didn't even realize that. They lost to a team who had a starter that went 3 for 16 from the field. Again, that's part of the game plan. You're going to give up shots to that guy. And it worked. And he's still going to win the game. It's not good. It's not good right now. Thanks, Jesse. Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? I know you're bummed about how they're playing. I know you had high hopes for this team. They'll get there. Don't worry. People can bark all night about the defense and with good reason. Let's not get lost that the 16 turnovers were more ghastly and just as costly, especially when New York is making Atlanta look elite on that end. Yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand because the defense doesn't have to guard as much if you're not giving up the turnovers. The Hawks tonight shot 45% from the field and 39.5% from 3. And I would argue that the 39.5% from 3 was Risacher, who went 6 of 10 from behind the arc. I would argue that number is a little deceiving because Risacher had the night of his young career. Their defense was not good down the stretch. On the whole, I thought they defended well enough to win the game. I mean, let's just back up for a second. This team gave up 105 points to the Hawks through the first 45 minutes and 40 seconds, basically 48 seconds. 105 points in 46 plus minutes in the NBA today. You're doing great. I'm not being facetious at all. You're doing fantastic if you give up 105 points through 46 minutes or 45 plus minutes, I should say. And then they gave up 16 points in the final 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Their defense was not great. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't great. But considering that's another part of it. 105 points through 45 plus minutes, and Risacher didn't miss. And this is a good offense. So, like, I'm sorry, I can't. I know everybody's sitting here and be like, the defense is broken. The defense is broken. It's not broken. If it was broken, you wouldn't. This would not be this. Like, we've seen broken defenses here, including under Tibbs. We've had some broken defense. This is not a broken defense. Is it a championship caliber defense? Absolutely not. But it's not broken. It just needs to be better, and more importantly, it needs to be cleaner when it matters the most, which it has not been. But I completely agree with you, Dom. Turnovers. That's all there is to it. And imagine how many points they would have given up if they didn't give up all those turnovers over the course of the game. Then they would have held the Hawks to whatever, something in the 90s through that amount of time. Just not good enough. Got to be better. Thank you, Dom. Haitian Ferg. The pick and roll is vital for Mikal and OG. Not a fan of JB's pick and roll refused to shoot contested twos at the rim. Cat at the top of the key. Pick and roll needs to happen every time. Yeah, I mean, he's those guys are not on the same page yet. Very simple. I agree. Well, OG is not as much the pick and roll. I think OG is more just like what I mean, different any sort of play that you could just get him going downhill, not where he needs to like make decisions with the basketball, because that's the pick and roll. You have to make a decision with the basketball. I don't know that I want OG to be making tons of decisions with the ball, but I do want him just like getting downhill, not having to think, and either to continue to attack or kick it out. That's fine for OG. Mikal Bridges, I agree. I would like to see Mikal Bridges more pick and rolls. And Brunson needing to shoot more contested twos at the rim. Yeah, it's funny. Like, for as much as he seems to be forcing it sometimes, there are other times where I feel like he's almost hesitant. So it's all over the place right now. Speaking of Jalen Brunson, it's courtesy of tweet got deleted, so we'll see if he puts it back up. This is Cat. Again, courtesy of New York basketball. Just came out sluggish. Can't allow that to happen. We got to impose our will. Got to play Knicks basketball from the giddy up. Can't just ease into the game. Yep. This one's going to hurt. We could have provided the city and everything tonight. Yeah. And then here's Jalen Brunson. We're trending in this again, courtesy of New York basketball. If you're not following them, please go following them at NBA_New York. Jalen Brunson, we're trending in the right direction. Can't focus on the opinions of people outside. Focus on what we believe is going on, how we can fix it together. We see each other and work with each other every day, so we know what's going on between these lines. I love that he said that. I completely agree with that. Ignore what everybody else is saying. And I don't, and some people may hear that and be like, he's putting his head in the sand. I am happy to hear the positivity, because the last thing you want is for there to be divisiveness right now with this team. And I don't think there is, and I don't think there will be, and I think that's the saving grace, is as they go through these growing pains, that this is not going to be some kind of a divided locker room or like people chirping about the coach or anything like that. Like, that's not good. That's not good. Thanks, Station. Hush Zoo with another one. Something needs to change with these mismatch hunting. Brunson holding the ball at 24 or 14 is not it. We need more flowing offense somehow. Yeah, it's time. That's all. The only thing that needs to change is more time. Just time. Time together. That's it. Simple as that. Thanks, Hush. Robert Cross, enough mismatch hunting. It's not as good as ball movement. Robert, did you really think this was going to happen automatically? Did you really think that they were going to come out of the gate with all of these new pieces and it was just going to be clicking? And again, I have to laugh. I have to laugh about the fact that the vast majority the vast majority, at least as many comments about the offense and the defense, and we're sitting here talking about the 4th-ranked offense in the league, which nobody seems to care about. But look, I get it was an incredibly ugly ending, and they had extremely stagnant possessions. And they kick the ball all over the goddamn place with turnovers. I get all of that stuff. But to sit here and say this offense mismatch hunch too much and there's not enough ball movement and it's terrible, there's some good stuff going on. Clearly there's some good stuff going on. It's not enough good stuff, but there's good stuff going on. Like they're working towards it. If we were sitting here and we were talking about an offense that was ranked, 15th in the league and they just weren't getting good shots, that'd be one thing. But not sound like a broken record. This is part of the process, Robert. Thank you. Jason M., what's going on, Jason? Defensive scheme is terrible, consistently overhelping and leaving shooters wide open. Risa Shea was always open. That's on Tibbs. He has to trust Cat and JB. Yeah, that's fair. Clearly they're being told to help. Clearly they're being told let's get beat by a Risa Shea 3 and not by a Trae Young, pick and roll. But then when you don't overhelp, you get what you got at the end of the fourth quarter. The solution is not to be left with those as your two choices, right? Where it's like, oh, we're either going to get killed from deep or we're going to get killed from the interior. Ideally, you take something away. And I think I don't even mind that they were overhelping early on because you don't want Trae to get going and you want to at least see okay, let's give up a bunch of threes to the rookie and see if he keeps hitting them. And then he keeps hitting them. And you're like, all right, well, he's not going to keep hitting them. And then he kept hitting them. So it's like, I'm more understanding of that. But then you kind of dig yourself into a hole or back yourself into a corner when that player is now hot and you can't leave him open at the end of the game. And I actually think he got 1-3 in the latter portion of the game. And so it's like you can't offer the help, and then you're fucked. Thanks, Jason. OG team, what's going on, OG? Rebounding. Feels like a big part of these last two losses. I would say tonight, the turnovers is probably number one. 16 turnovers, 16 offensive rebounds. And they almost won this game. It's a tie. Thanks, OG team. Dom Cappuccini. Thank you for another generous contribution, Dom. I'll give it more time, but I do worry that the best look of this team is with Precious or Mitch in the starting lineup and Hart helping Deuce off the bench. The glass work needs to bounce back. Again, I'm going to push back on that. I'm not going to do my whole rant again. I understand why people want to go back to that. I don't think we are properly appreciating how much that would impact the offense. And not to say that they still couldn't be a very good offense. They could. And I'm not saying that those are not lineups that they could go to. They can. And they should. You win by employing many different styles. If this team is going to win a championship, it is because they reach a level offensively with Cat at the 5 that teams are not going to be able to guard at all. And by figuring out how to be good enough with Cat at the 5 on defense. That's I can't sit here and be like, that's a fact, because it's not. But if you want my opinion, that's my opinion. And I don't know that there is an opinion about this team that I hold stronger than that one. And I get it. I'm sure other people who talk about this team are going to say, you need Mitch. Or Precious. Precious will help just because it means no Jericho Sims. But yeah. Cat's the 5. If you traded for Cat and you didn't plan for Cat to be your 5, you should fire everybody. Thank you, Dom. Correct defense, SC. Tibbs is doing the stubborn thing again. How? Why? What? Start McBride. Play Hart. Starter minutes off the bench. Delete drop coverage from the timeline. Profit. So how do you want to guard? How do you want to guard if you don't want to do drop? Again, we're 7 games in. So to say that the coach is being stubborn because something is not working as well as you would like it to after 7 games, the opposite of being stubborn is being overreactionary. And that, to me, to scrap a defense after 7 games, that would seem to be overreactionary. That's number one. Why are we starting McBride instead? Like, what's the difference? If you're going to play Hart starter minutes off the bench, why? Like, I'm genuinely asking. I'm not trying to be like a dick. Like, why start McBride? You know, like of all the issues this team has, I just don't think Josh Hart is one of them. But that's me. Thank you. Correct defense. Jessica Elsner, what's going on, Jess? 3 nights of huge, painful losses in a row. Well, yeah. 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 Woo! The Knicks games being easiest to process. Yeah, I was waiting for you to say it. We will see more bad games like this before the gelling has realized its final form. Ugly but needed. Let's go Knicks. I agree. It's all part of the process. Doesn't make it any less frustrating. And at least the Knicks have another game in 2 days. So there's that. Thank you, Jessica. Travis Edward, ball movement and rebounding awful. Without that improving, the Bridges trade will go down as a franchise killer. I think we're a little early to make that judgment. I agree. I mean, the early returns are not good, for sure. The early returns are not good, but I think Bridges is the sort of guy that the longer this team plays together, the better he's going to look, because he is someone that is very much part of an ecosystem. He is not the ecosystem. So if the ecosystem is not working optimally, well, on one hand, I don't think that's his fault, because he's not the sort of player that dictates that. That's not his sort of game. But if it is not going as well as it could be going, he's just not going to look as effective. Defensively, I think he needs to be a little bit better. And if you want to talk about he needs to rebound better, fine. But I think tonight they were tired. And I think they were tired. Then they were a step slow. Thank you, Travis. Hush Sue, Brunson hasn't been taking his post fading middies. Yeah. I mean, he didn't take any tonight. Now, he didn't get an opportunity to take a lot of them tonight. But it's just a lot of what we normally see from Brunson we haven't really seen. Thanks, Hush. Jordan Miller, Brunson needs to move the ball quicker. Too much offensive talent surrounding him now. He needs to let others touch the ball early in the shot clock. I completely agree. Let your teammates move with the ball to hasten shot creation. Once you get step, once you put don't wait until you put all the pressure on the defense. Once you put a little bit of pressure on the defense, maybe then move the ball. But yeah. It's a great comment, Jordan. Zero to add. Don't disagree at all. Thanks. Jessica with another one. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper. T.S. Eliot. Well, I hope the Knicks don't end with a whimper. That's for damn sure. If the Knicks go out, they better damn well go out with a bang. Preferably not anytime soon. But yeah, I feel you. Thanks, Jess. Jason with another one. The goal is not to be one of the best teams in the East. The goal is to be one of the best teams in the NBA. These losses are unacceptable. Yeah. Yeah, they're It's atrocious loss. Atrocious loss. Full stop. Thank you, Jason. Freeway Hustler 21 with another one. Let's not be typical Knicks fans and turn on JB. He just needs to get out of the playoff tunnel vision. I want to see him forcing chemistry and not shots. We'll be fine. So here's the thing. I think he's doing that. I think he is trying at times to force chemistry, and I think that has not come naturally to him. As Denver Nuggets just got a massive win with a defensive stop on a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander drive at the with seconds remaining. Would have sent the game to overtime. Is that Peyton Watson made that play? That's a hell of a play. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, look. There's always going to be a couple of people, but like I don't think Knicks fans are going to turn on Jalen Brunson. It's just, yeah, he needs to find chemistry. I don't think you force chemistry. I think you find chemistry, and you find it organically, and you find it by repetition and good habits and good intentions and time. I'm going to keep saying it. It's time. Just need more of it. And it's just, it almost feels like it's running out early, right? That's how it feels right now. We'll take one more super chat, and then I will do the out of town scoreboard presented by our friends at T Social. Jason M with another one. Thank you, Jason, for the generosity tonight. The starting five has looked bad since the first game of the preseason, and nothing has changed. I worry Tibbs is not the coach to unlock the offense. Jason, come on, man. Seriously? Fourth in the league. Is that, I'm not saying that means everything. I'm not saying it means everything. It doesn't. The threes are going down at an unsustainable rate. You cannot tell me it means nothing. And it's been 7 games. 7 games. Time. They don't need a new coach. They need time. On that note, Jason, you disappointed me with that one, man. Come on. That was unlike you. Okay. Is our out of town scoreboard presented by T Squared Social. You can get a free beer, draft beer, when you tell them Knicks Film School sent you. And you can visit tsquaredsocial.com to learn about club memberships, trivia nights, sports leagues, and much more. And of course, you can come to our watch party this Friday. I'm sure the enthusiasm for this team is still through the roof right now. But you can be a part of the change that you want to see in the world by coming to support the Knicks at T Squared Social this Friday. Again, 42nd Street, just down the block from Grand Central Station. Giving away 2 Knicks tickets, courtesy of one. Please, at halftime of the game, all you have to do is follow them and us on Instagram. Giving away a bunch of other stuff, too, including some Knicks Film School hats. So, sports team in style. Okay, out-of-town scoreboard in no particular order. The Suns won a clutch game against the Heat. Tough, Miami. Sorry for you. Fall to 3-4 on the season. Nuggets, I just mentioned that outstanding win against the Thunder in Denver. That is the Thunder's first loss of the season. The Cavaliers still have no losses this season. They played the injury-ravaged Pelicans and won 131-122, although Zion did play in that Pelicans game. Mavericks destroyed the Bulls. Grizzlies beat down the Lakers. Rockets destroyed the Spurs. The Steve Kerr Bowl, I guess, Steve Kerr, Jason Tatum Bowl, was won by Steve Kerr, which makes me very happy. The Celtics with their second loss of the season. Pacers upended the Magic. Magic were down big early in that game, and they made that one closer. Hornets defeated the Pistons on, I think there was a clutch Brandon Miller shot late in that game. And 2 games currently going on. Clippers, Sixers down by 6 in the third quarter. And then Raptors are up on the Kings in Sacramento. We'll do an RJ stat check here before we go. RJ currently with 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. 19 points on 7 of 11 shooting. Good for you, RJ, man. Get after it. Okay. That was your out-of-town scoreboard presented by T Squared Social. Let's finish up. Thomas Bosco, what's going on, Thomas? I'm surprised about how bad our late game offense looks, going up 110-105, followed by a bad hard three, okay OG attempt, and some bad Brunson shots. We got another one from Bosco, so I'll read his next one before we move on. Tonight is a night we miss Dante. Ball handling and initiation outside of Jalen Brunson has been poor, and defenses are aware of that and taking advantage. You could say they miss Julius too. You know, I think late. Here's the thing. When Julius was here, when Dante was here, like Brunson has the ball in those situations, right? Like Brunson has the ball in those situations. And I think they just got stagnant. I think if you're going to say they missed DiVincenzo, to me, it's more just like those guys had so many reps together that's why they missed it, because it wasn't there was nothing to figure out. Those guys just played with each other. You know, they knew each other like the back of their hand. But that's, you got new guys, you got to get adjusted to it. It doesn't mean there weren't poor decisions made. It doesn't mean there weren't poor possessions. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means it's understandable, even if you may not like it. But yeah, I mean, I think they could have used Dante tonight. They could have used Julius tonight. Like, we know what we got with those guys, right? We know what we got. Thank you, Thomas. Kev with one more. When Randall was bad, you felt him too much. When Cat is bad, you don't feel him enough. He's exceeded my lofty expectations hitherto. Wow. The wins to come. Yeah, I don't think anyone's complaining about Cat. I know people are complaining about the defense and people want to see Mitchell Robinson. Which I understand. For as much as I am pushing back on it, I do understand where people are coming from. But yeah, I think Cat's been really good. Thanks, Kev. Rich McLeod. Between the Hawks, the Braves, and the election, the state of Georgia continues its mission to ruin my entire life. Yeah. I hate losing to this freaking Hawks team. I really do. And I love beating them. So this one hurt. Thanks, Rich. OG team. People want Brunson to turn into Halliburton and Trey. I mean, you nailed something there, OG. He's not, and he's never going to be. Those guys are top 5, top 3, 4, whatever, passers in the top 4. I think they're both at the top. It's them and Doncic and Jokic. Those are the best passers in the game. Jalen Brunson's not that. Jalen Brunson's never going to be that. I do think to play devil's advocate, I don't know that people necessarily want him to turn into that. I do think people want him to make better decisions, because there were better decisions to be made. And the classic example is the one, again, Benji, I think, sent out a video of it where he showed, Brunson, just, you got to make that pass to Cat. Yeah, here it is. Got to be a Cat. I just saw it now. It was the first thing that popped up on my timeline, and then it went away. So why did it go away? Let's pull it back up. Yeah. Got to be a Cat 3. And Josh, and I didn't even realize this part, and Josh Hart lets him know. Instead, it was a kickball out of bounds. Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting there. Thanks, OG team. Greg Film Stuff, what's going on? Greg Film Stuff, how you doing? I haven't heard from you yet this year, so I hope everything is well. What annoys me is being up 5 after the Cat block, getting the ball, and not closing. Yep. So what I opened the show with. Love Brunson, but he needs to take the D-Wade approach here and let Cat be LeBron. We also have injuries, and the league is better. We'll be fine. So Karl-Anthony Towns is many things. LeBron James is not one of them. LeBron James is, I don't need to talk about LeBron James. He's LeBron James. That said, I would be lying if that specific dynamic has not entered my mind a few times. And that may be ridiculous. Probably is ridiculous. But the notion of Jalen Brunson taking a more of a backseat to Towns and letting the, like, again, I think that's where you're getting at here. Like, you're not saying Karl-Anthony Towns needs to be LeBron James, and I shouldn't have assumed that that's what you're saying, because that's not what you're saying. But like, the offense goes through, the difference is he's not Jokic. That's the thing, right? He's not Jokic. I do think it needs to be a collective effort. And I wonder, and that's tough to do, because there are times where it should run through Towns. There are times where it should run through Brunson. Like, the dream, obviously, is Steph and Draymond, right? That's the dream, or something like that. But neither Cat or Brunson is the passer that those guys are. Neither of them has the, like, those are two of the smartest, 5 basketball players that I've ever seen in my life, in terms of how they operate with each other and operate just and get shots for everybody. Like, so I don't want to, like, Towns and Brunson are both extremely smart players, but they're not. So I think it's probably an unfair comparison, but I don't know. I get where you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, because good stuff seems to happen when the offense runs through Towns. I would like to see it be more of a true 2-man game, and I don't know what that looks like. Does there need to be one alpha? I don't know. Thanks, Greg. Kevin O. Peterson with another one. Tibbs and better players were really supposed to unlock Bridges. Disappointed in him tonight. Oh, well. A win sure would have been nice after the last 24 hours. Well, yeah. Yeah, it was a disappointing night from Bridges. I'm certainly not giving up on Mikal Bridges yet. That guy's an incredible basketball player. And he will look a lot better once the team looks better. And I understand there's like a chicken and egg thing there. I do think it really all does start with Brunson. And I think once Brunson starts to figure stuff out, I think you're going to see a lot of, I think Bridges is going to look a lot better. That's my suspicion. Thank you, Kevin. Sam Garcia's dad. What's going on, Ray? Give him 20 games at least, then panic. I'm not panicking, to be clear. I am sympathizing with those who are pushing the panic button ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. Thanks, Ray. Joseph J. What's going on, Joseph J? James Edwards was right. The dog demeanor grit is changed. The teams don't fear the Knicks defense and rebounding. In my 2 cents, someone else has to replace Randall's 2 to the ball production. Help JB. I mean, that's not Cat, but he does it in a different way. I don't think you're going to get that. You're not going to find someone with the assets that they have, or rather don't have. Like, Randall's a very unique player. And I think they are counting on the whole being greater than the sum of the parts, and that's how you replace what Randall brought. In terms of the dog and the demeanor and the grit and all that, they don't have as much of it, but I don't know that any team in the league had more of it than the Knicks last year. I don't think it's gone. And the question is, can you still have enough with the trade-offs that you've made to make the equation, to make the new total higher than the previous total at the end of when you add everything up? And we're still finding that out. I think we'll be fine. And I don't think we're going to look back. Thanks, Joseph. Kevin with another one. Thank you, Kevin. You've been very generous tonight. I appreciate you, man. The worst thing about the losses are coming KF in here and people being reactionary. Worst thing about the losses are coming. KF. I don't know. People in the chat talking about how we have no spacing when we went 22 of 47 from three, or how Cat is soft, 34 on 23 shots with 16 rebounds. Come on. Why do you pay attention, Kevin? I mean, everybody's watching. Keep watching. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Oh, Knicks fans in here. People being reactionary. But it's, again, Andrew Claudio, the wisest thing Andrew's ever said. Fan is short for fanatic. This is what fandom is. People are going to be reactionary. It's like, and it's not everybody. It's actually a very small percentage of people. This is the other thing Andrew Claudio always reminded me of when I used to get really bent out of shape sometimes. The people who are loudest, the people who spend the time, chirping the most, that does not represent the majority. I sincerely believe the majority of Knicks fans are going to be more understanding than not when it comes to this stuff. But I also don't blame anybody for being frustrated about the performance tonight and how it ended. I'm frustrated, and I'm supposed to be the voice of reason. I was pissed off, and I still am a little pissed off. This is the kind of loss I'm going to wait. This doesn't it used to happen with every loss. Now it doesn't happen nearly that often. But this is going to be one of those losses where I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and then I remember this game. I'm going to be like, ugh, and I'm instantly in a shitty mood. That has not happened at all through the previous three losses. And honestly, it didn't happen much last season. Last season, I really the rare was the game where I woke up and I was like annoyed from the previous night because the team, there was nothing to be upset about. Tonight, there's something to be upset about. Thank you, Kevin. Anthony Sixto, what's going on, Anthony? Good times to remind people Brunson started slow last year as well. Outside of Cavs Celtics, standings are a dogfight, so they have time to sort this out. Yeah, and that's the pushback that I'm going to give to Jason's comment from earlier where he was like, this isn't about being good in the East, it's about winning a championship. Yes, but the seeding in the East is what matters. And figuring out how to be a better team, yeah, of course, you need to figure out a better team to win a championship. But that you can go through this process and lose some games and still be a good enough seed in the East. That's the key. Thanks, Anthony. Kevin's reminding me Cat had 3 blocks. I didn't. Yeah. OG team, if things go to shit, blame iHeart for leaving us. Yeah. Well, would have been an interesting alternate universe. Alas. Jay Vertical, what's going on, Jay Vertical? I don't agree with having a big with Cat is going backwards because that gives us more lineup variety. And you could always have Cat at the 5 for stretches. The Wolves did this and made a Western Conference Finals. I miss Burks. I agree with you. It does give you more lineup variety. And you can go to it sometimes. Where my pushback is coming from is how I am reading these comments. And this, God knows this would not be the first time that I am misreading something because I have a certain perception of people's viewpoints in my head, and I am projecting those viewpoints onto how I read the commentary. But the way I am reading the comments is as that is the answer, right? That is the primary answer. If you're ordering the list of here's how the Knicks are going to go about their task of winning a championship, I feel like people are putting Cat with Mitch or with Precious or whatever. That needs to be number 1. And that I flatly don't agree with. It can be a pitch in your arsenal. Absolutely, it could be a pitch in your arsenal. And as far as the Wolves doing this and making a Western Conference Finals, they had Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, who is one of, if not the best screen setter in the entire league, who is a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, and that's not an accident, who is a far, far more skilled big man than he gets credit for. You could throw the ball to Rudy Gobert in the post and trust that something will happen, starting with him catching the ball. How many times did we see Julius Randle attempt to drive the lane and throw the ball to an open Mitchell Robinson because Mitchell Robinson's man came over to help on a driving Julius, and Mitchell Robinson fumbled the ball out of bounds because he can't catch a ball in traffic. Guess what's happening in Minnesota? All those passes that he used to throw to Mitch and would go out of bounds, Rudy Gobert is catching those passes and doing things with them. Like, there's a lot of reasons why that worked. That I don't believe would translate if you just stuck Mitch here and said, go be Rudy Gobert. He's not Rudy Gobert. I'm sorry, but he's not. Putting aside the fact that we've completely ignored the whole conversation that existed before the season, which is how can we rely on this player who has not proven his ability to stay healthy? So we're just going to pencil in, okay, this is going to be a 25 minutes a game. We're going to go to this, or 20 minutes a game. We're going to go to. Well, what if he's not there? What if he's hurt? And again, none of this is Mitchell Robinson's fault. Mitchell Robinson is brilliant at the things that he is brilliant at. And those things, and Mitchell Robinson himself, could play an important role in this team. But to say that it is the answer or the biggest part of the answer, I can't get there. Haitianferg. With OG and Mikal, I meant that they can feed off of the pick and roll between Cat and JB. Okay, yeah, that's a better point. But I still think the Mikal Bridges should run a little bit of pick and roll. They're still on the wings and the corners waiting to react off of pick and roll action. Yeah, I mean, they're not. I don't think they're spamming the Cat JB pick and roll enough. That said, I think part of that is because Cat is not setting the screens that Brunson would like. He's not Hartenstein as a screen setter. He needs to get better at that. And Brunson needs to learn how to use Cat as a screener better. And if the play isn't developing as Jalen Brunson would like, well, adjust. Figure out something else. Get someone else involved in the action. Bring OG up. Bring Mikal up. Bring Josh Hart up. And it's not that they aren't doing some of this stuff. I know that they are, but I think there are explanations for why it's not as simple as that. So, yeah. There we go. All right. That's it. That was a tough one, man. Could have used the win tonight. But you don't always get what you want. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel, help out the podcast, give a 5-star rating, leave a nice review. And of course, if you're in the New York area, join us on Friday night for Knicks Bucks at T-Squared Social. I'll be there kicking off the party at 6:30 with Andrew. We expect a nice crowd, but come. There's an RSVP form, which you can go to our Twitter account. You can go to Knicks Film School newsletter. Might even be in the description of this episode. Fill out the RSVP form if you know you're coming. You don't have to, obviously, but we're just trying to get an idea of how many people might be showing up. So looking forward to seeing everybody on Friday. I will be on postgame on Friday, but that is it for tonight. Thank you for watching the Knicks Film School postgame show powered by BetUS, and we will be back with more fun and games before you know it.